Did you know that NIH is capping the number of applications you can submit in a year and also cracking down on the use of AI in writing your grants? I'm going to break it all down in this video. If you're new around here, my name is Sarah Dobson. I'm a research grant consultant, and my team and I help early career researchers get their grants funded. So let's talk about this notice that NIH issued on July 17th. It is called Supporting Fairness and Originality in NIH Research Applications. So I'm going to talk about the policies that they're implementing. I'm going to talk about why they are implementing these policies, and I'm going to talk about what it means. So the two main parts of the policy are, number one, NIH will not consider applications that are either substantially developed by AI or contain sections substantially developed by AI to be original ideas of applicants. And the second part of the policy is NIH will only accept 6 new renewal, resubmission, or revision applications from an individual PI/program director or multiple principal investigator for all council rounds in a calendar year. And so that applies to all activity codes except for T activity codes and R13 conference grant applications. So why are they doing this? Well, in the background of this policy, NIH says that they have recently observed instances of PIs submitting large numbers of applications, some of which may have been generated with AI tools. While AI may be a helpful tool in reducing the burden of preparing applications, the rapid submission of large numbers of research applications from a single PI may unfairly strain NIH's application review processes. The percentage of applications from PIs submitting an average of more than 6 applications per year is relatively low. However, there's evidence that the use of AI tools has enabled PIs to submit more than 40 distinct applications in a single application submission round. So understandably, that would strain the application review processes, and NIH would want to curb that. And so that's really the reasoning behind this is the high volume of applications from presumably at least a few PIs that seem to be AI generated. And so they've now implemented this blanket policy that caps the number of applications in any given calendar year and reinforces that applications that are deemed to be AI generated or partially AI generated will not be considered original work. And that contravenes an earlier policy around applicant organizations and their affiliated research teams needing to submit applications around original ideas. So yeah, that kind of gives the background of why all of this is happening. But what does this actually mean? So one big question mark in this policy is, what does substantially developed by AI actually mean? So NIH says that they have the latest technology in detection of AI-generated content to identify AI-generated applications, but they haven't given any clarification around what substantially developed by AI means. And so it's fair to conclude that they will just make that determination based on the tools that they have. And that means that there really aren't any, there isn't much guidance for applicants in using these AI tools, which is especially confusing because of what they say in the background, right? While AI may be a helpful tool in reducing the burden of preparing applications. So they do acknowledge that, yeah, it can be a helpful tool, but if you use it to substantially develop your application, then that's not okay. But again, they don't give you any parameters for what that means. So that's the number one question mark. And the number two question mark is, what does the cap on the number of applications in a calendar year, what is that going to do to PIs? How is that going to affect PIs? So what NIH says is that the based on the data that they have, that is, it's relatively rare that PIs submit more than 6 applications in any given calendar year. So it shouldn't affect that many PIs. And if you have been in my universe for any amount of time, you'll know that I focus much more on quality rather than quantity. And so, yeah, if you watch any of these videos, if you're a student or a client of mine, this very likely won't affect you. But this is also happening in the context of potential budget cuts, potential consolidation of NIH institutes and centers, and for this policy to be happening in parallel, it may understandably make some PIs really nervous, especially PIs who have big labs and who need a lot of funding to keep the lights on. Or for PIs who are struggling to get funded and want to submit as many applications as possible in the belief that it will help their chances. Again, that is not the approach that I recommend or that I advise people on. I don't think that just submitting as many applications as possible is what is going to get your grant funded. I do think that quality and clarity of communication does make a difference, and I know that to be true because of the work that I do. Obviously, I'm very biased, but I can understand why it would generate some anxiety among PIs who are counting on the ability to submit a lot of applications in any calendar year in the hopes that something will hit, right? And when you break it down, that's really 2 applications per cycle as either a new submission, a resubmission, and that's both as an individual PI and as part of a multi-PI team. And so for some investigators, that is really going to constrain their grant applications. So how should we think about this more broadly? So number one, I'm going to refer you back to the series that I did on the responsible and ethical use of AI in grant writing. And of course, this video is going to become part of that series as well. But I've talked about this fairly recently in terms of how I would approach using AI tools in grant writing. And a lot of what I talk about in those videos, which I do recommend that you go watch for yourself, what I recommend in those videos is that you use AI very carefully, very judiciously, and very incrementally. And so even though we don't know exactly what it means for a grant to be substantially developed by AI or what NIH means by that, we can presume that what they mean is generating original ideas, first of all. Well, okay, there's a whole separate argument about whether AI can actually do that because it's more about pattern recognition than about generating new ideas, but it can generate new text, right? And so if you're generating blocks of text and passing that off as your own work, that is very likely going to be flagged by whatever the latest technology that NIH is using to detect these things, right? And so if you are going to use AI at all in your grant applications, my recommendation is to use it very incrementally to help you clarify how you are explaining something, to refine the language that you're using, to simplify a sentence or two, but not to generate whole paragraphs and just kind of cut and paste that into your application. That is not a responsible use of these tools. And NIH is now telling you that that is very likely going to be flagged in their AI detection system or processes. So I would be really careful around that. And then when it comes to the cap on the number of applications that you can submit in a given calendar year, that goes back to other series that I've done on this channel about planning and strategizing your grant writing and thinking carefully about what your year is going to look like and being really strategic about when you're going to submit and making sure that you give yourself a long enough runway to write a really strong application. And that involves really thinking about your overall program of research and the goals that you have and what you want to focus on in terms of applications for this given calendar year. And just, again, making sure that you're giving yourself the appropriate amount of time to do a really good job writing this application. And as we've talked about in the AI series, if you are going to use AI tools, it's probably going to take you longer than it would to just write the text if you're having to double check everything and use it almost sentence by sentence. And so deciding whether that is worthwhile is for you to figure out. But again, when it comes to planning, it's really important that you think about your overall goals and vision for your research career and the applications that you want to submit over the next kind of 12 to 18 month period, and really map that out and recognize that there may be resubmissions that need to happen during that time, perhaps renewals if you're in that stage of a currently held grant, right? But mapping that all out so that you are prepared, so that you, of course, don't exceed that cap that NIH has implemented, but that you have a clear idea of this sort of ecosystem of projects that you want to be working on and the timing of when they're all going to happen. So again, this policy is, I would say, unlikely to affect all that many PIs, according to what NIH is telling us. But what it tells me is that it is especially important to be responsible in how you choose to use AI tools in generating grant applications, if you choose to use these tools at all. So if you found this helpful, again, I refer you to the rest of the series that I did on the responsible and ethical use of AI in grant writing. And if you want more support in writing grants without AI tools, I have lots of resources available for you inside my free resource library, which you can sign up for in the link below this video. And of course, I'll also link the policy here so that you can read it for yourself.